Hi, everybody. Welcome today to Friday, the 12th of April. My goodness, we're in the middle of April already. Tax day is coming up, so get ready. I want to thank you for joining me. How to get a hold of me, TomInserra at, at the outlook.com is the way to get a hold of me. One of the ways you can get a hold of me by, let me fix this here real quick. There we go. All right. You can get a hold of me that way. You can also get a hold of me through Facebook, Tom and Sarah. Go ahead and comment, like, share these videos if you like them. Hopefully you do, and so you can get those things. If you want to give into this ministry, you can feel free to contact me at TomInserra at outlook.com. I'll get you the links. I also post them on the description for the videos. For my YouTube channel, it's on the description. My podcast, I don't put it on the podcast, but TomInserra at outlook.com. That's how to get a hold of me for those links. So I want to thank you for joining me, making sure the microphones are on, and they are on. Yeah, praise God. So next week we're going to be going through James chapter 5 today and tomorrow, and hopefully we can get through it all. There's only 19 verses in James chapter 5, and then Monday for a couple of days we're going to go through hearing the voice of God, how to hear God for you, how to hear God for yourself. What can you do to be able to hear God better? And then so that's what we're going to be doing. And for the first couple of days, you can also go to my TikTok page at Tom and Sarah, and I have videos there as well. I have 30 seconds of hope on there, and you can like, comment, share, and follow me there. All right, praise God. My desire, especially on TikTok, is to reach the lost and to give them something that they can hold on to, give them something that they can reach out for. So, and then hopefully that God touches them. Anyway, James or Jacob chapter 5, listen, all of you who are rich. Now he's talking to the rich people, and I believe that it's also the physically rich, the people who have a lot of income, the people who have a lot of stuff. Listen, all of you who are rich, for it is time to weep and howl over the misery that will overtake you. All right, that's the Aramaic word can refer to a demonic torment. For the demonic torment that will overtake you. Your riches lie rotting, your fine clothing eating moths, and your gold and silver are corroded as a witness against you. You have hoarded up treasure for the last days, but it will become a fire to burn your flesh. Listen, can't you hear the cries of the laborers? Can't you hear the cries of the reapers in the field, basically? He's saying, over the wages you fraudulently held back from those who worked for you. Okay, for those who worked in the fields. The cries for justice of those you've cheated have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts, or Lord Sabaoth, or the Lord of armies. Okay, and I want to talk about this for a second. Remember, he's not talking about rich people. Being rich is amoral. It is it's not immoral and it's not moral. It's amoral. There's no morality tied to being rich. And I remember in the movie Fiddler on the Roof, a guy walks up to Tevye and he says, he says that riches are the sickness, and he says, "Well, may God strike me with it." Oh man. Anyway, he's talking to the rich people that are fraudulent, that are defrauding the laborers. They're not paying them the right wages. They're defrauding the people in general. It says, these things that they're hoarding up, um, are basically going to burn to fire. They're going to burn their flesh, and things that they're saving up for the last days. Now, and I'm not implicating anybody here, but at the end of the 1990s, 1998, 1999, there was a whole thing where we had to hoard up. We had to store food. We had to store stuff so that when the millennium happened, when 2000 happened, that when all the computers shut down and when all of nobody can get shipments, there was going to be no food. At least you had food. And then on New Year's Eve, now the millennium actually did not start until 2001, but a lot of people said all computer programs end at 9999, and so 99 was the last of the computer program, and then so the computers were going to shut down. Actually, somebody said that it was September 9th, 1999, and that didn't happen. So anyway, we were in a worship time, ushering in the new year, 1999 midnight, coming around midnight to 2000. And as soon as midnight struck, the lights did not go out. The electricity stayed on. And this guy that was so emphatic about the tribulation that was going to start back then and the troubles that were going to start back then, he disappeared. He hoarded up, he had a cellar, and he hoarded up food and everything else, and he hoarded it up for him and his family, and nothing happened, and it ended up, if they didn't need it, it ended up rotting. And now there's nothing wrong with saving. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with having supplies. I have supplies, and in case something happened, I do have some dried food and other canned food and stuff. But here's the thing, that these people back in James' church, Jacob's church in the New Testament, they were defrauding their laborers. They had people working for them, and they held back the wages from them. And their cries for justice came up to the ears of the Lord, and the Lord heard their cry because it was unjust. Now he's talking to these people, and he says, you have indulged yourselves with every luxury and pleasure this world offers, but you're only stuffing your heart full for a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered good and innocent people who had no power to defend themselves. You have condemned and murdered righteous people. You have condemned and murdered the righteous one, a good translation says. It's possible he's talking about Jesus here, but we don't know. Because he says right after that, who had no power to defend themselves. They would not resist these rich people. Verse 7, meanwhile, brothers and sisters, we must be patient and filled with expectation as we wait for the appearing of the Lord. It means arrival. It means presence. It means the manifest coming of the Lord. To be visible. He becomes visible. He's uncovered. He's revealed. Okay, meanwhile, all that's happening, but we must be patient and filled with expectations as we wait for the appearing of the Lord. Think about the farmer who has to wait patiently for the earth's harvest as it ripens because the early and the latter rains. So you also keep your hopes high and patience, for the presence of the Lord is drawing closer. This returning of the Lord is near at hand. It's touchable. And so he says that it's drawing near. Since each of you are a part of God's family, never complain or grumble about each other. There you go. Don't blame each other for your troubles. So the judgment will not come on you, for the true judge is near and ready to appear. In other words, he's at the gate. Excuse me. There we go. So you have to understand this. The judge is ready to appear. Stop blaming each other. Stop being narcissistic and blame everybody else for your troubles. Take responsibility for what's going on for you. It's nobody else's fault. Somebody else may be driving the bus, but get off at the next stop. Don't let that narcissistic person, don't let that controlling person do that to you. Don't complain or grumble about each other. Let it go. Don't complain about so-and-so. Don't complain about him. Don't complain about her. How come she gets everything? How come he gets everything? I'm just as anointed as they are. But you don't want to be judged. Remember, Jesus said this, and I said it again. Jesus said this. Don't judge unless you want to be judged with the same measurement that you judge. Don't judge unless you want to be measured with the same judgment that you judge. We are all part of God's family. I'm not going to complain about my big toe, or my big toe's not going to complain about my hand if it can't hold anything. I have a friend who has a turf toe, and I had one of those, and those are killer, man. They hurt so much, and it affects your balance. It affects, your walking, and it really is painful. So don't complain about each other. Let them be in God's control. My brothers and sisters, take the prophets as your mentors. They have prophesied in the name of the Lord and have brought them great suffering, yet they patiently endured. They have prophesied in the name of the Lord, and that prophesying in the name of the Lord brought them great sufferings. Yet they patiently endured. They patiently endured. They waited for God. As God was doing this thing, they patiently endured as they were suffering their trials, and then here's the thing. God is wanting us to understand, excuse me again, that when you do something in the name of the Lord, somebody's going to say something about you or against you or blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you and say all manners of evil against you falsely for my sake. For so that they did that to the prophets. Jesus said that in Matthew chapter 5. In verse 11 of here in James chapter 5, he says, we honor them as our heroes. These guys, we regard them as blessed because they remained faithful even while enduring great sufferings. Remain faithful regardless of what's going on in your life. Remain faithful to the Lord. And the Bible says that Paul said that if we are faithless, he remains faithful because he cannot deny himself. Remain faithful to the Lord and watch what he does. And you have heard all of that Job went through. And we can now see that the Lord ultimately treated him with wonderful kindness, revealing how tender-hearted he really was. Now, I don't know if I should go here. God is really tender-hearted. you can go to Exodus chapter 34. God, the God of, the God is slow to anger, and he's kind, and he's merciful, and he shows mercy to generations. He forgives generations. Okay. And a lot of people talk about Job, and I got to tell you, the first thing is, if God and Satan, how come Satan was allowed to appear before God in the early parts of Job and bring accusation against Job? Well, I always tell people, it's like this. Every trial in court, you have to have a prosecuting attorney. You need an accuser. And Job was standing before God, and Satan was standing before God and was accusing Job. Actually, it turned out that he was accusing God of treating Job so good, unwarranted good. Okay? And God said, well, let this happen. Don't do this. Don't do that. And somebody also asked me, how come Job's wife wasn't taken? Well, remember, when you're married, the two become one flesh. And so Satan could not touch Job's wife because she was married to Job. And God said, don't kill him. And he didn't. You're going to go through issues. You're going to have troubles. James, pastoring the church, I believe it was the James that was pastoring in Jerusalem. And they were experiencing quite the persecution from the Romans, from the Jews, from virtually everybody around. And these prophets were trying to mentor the church. And these prophets came, and they were like, getting persecuted and everything else. But they endured. Jesus says, in James chapter 1, he says, blessed are you when you endure temptation, for when you are tried, you will receive the crown of life. God treated Job, and God treats you, and God treats these people at his church and him and these prophets who were suffering with wonderful kindness and revealing how tenderhearted he is. God is always near, and he always brings relief and his presence into every situation. Hang on a second. I might. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, verse 12. Above all, we must be those who never need to verify our speech as truthful by swearing by the heavens or the earth or any other oath. All right. Matthew chapter 5 talks about that. But instead, we must be so full of integrity that our yes or no is convincing enough that we do not stumble into hypocrisy. Let your yes be yes. And you've heard it said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Just be very emphatic about that. Don't allow yourself to get caught into making up stories. For me, when I prophesy over people, I try to say exactly what God is saying and let it go. And sometimes, and I've caught myself a number of times, coming up and trying to explain myself, explain the word. I don't have to do that. I give you the word, or I give people the word that God gives me, and my job is done. All right. If there is, and if there's something that I must interject, I'll say, this is me, but I just feel like this. But you test it and see if that's the Lord. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's called humility. Integrity is that you are the same person when you put your head on the pillow as you are when you're walking around and preaching and doing all the stuff that we do. That's integrity. I can honestly say that since I've been saved, 99.9% of the time, in the 51 year, coming on the 51st year, of me being saved. In my 51 years, I can honestly say that I put my head on the pillow and was the same person. Some people like it, some people don't. You don't have to like me, it's okay. If you're a believer, you have to love me, but you don't have to like me. Somebody said, do you love your children? I said, yes, I love my children. And, but I always say there are times when I don't like this one or I don't like that one, but I love them. Oh, Lord, help me. Anyway, let it be convincing enough that you don't stumble into hypocrisy, because you can. Let your yes be yes. Don't make any oaths. It used to be when I was growing up that a handshake was all that I needed. Was all that I needed to do. All that anybody needed to do with me was shake my hand. My dad used to say this, and I carried it on. He said that a man is only as good as his word. If his word is good, the man is good. If his word is bad, and then my dad would leave it like that. It just implied that the man is bad. You can't trust him. Now, I'm a little naive and a little too trusting, I think. And basically what I do is I trust you until you prove me wrong. Fool me once, it's your fault. Fool me the second time, it's my fault. And once you lose my trust, it's very difficult to get it back. I trust the Lord because he's always trustworthy. If God tells me something, I will do it. No questions asked. If I trust you, you can say what you want. I have a friend in New Jersey. His name is George, and he runs a radio station out there called The Gate Radio. You can get that on thegateradio.org. It's an app, and it's 24-hour worship, praise. That's on the internet. And thegateradio.org. Anyway, he's part of the Eastern Gate International House of Prayer in New Jersey, which prays specifically for Israel. But it's even more than that. It's worship, praise, thanksgiving, words of kindness, words of good and not of evil. And he just tries to bless you. He's a great man. Just let it be yes. Let it be no. Let your yes be yes and let your no be no. That man, George, he can tell me anything. I trust him. You know how I know? Because he's trustworthy. He got me my first job in radio. And it was funny. I had a perfect face for radio. So let's kind of review here. Don't defraud anybody. The first part of chapter 5. Don't defraud anybody, because it's all going to overtake you. Don't grumble or complain about your brothers or sisters. Wait patiently for him. Endure and honor the prophets. And let your yes be yes and your no be no. All right, well, that's all that we're going to do today, and I want to thank you for joining me. There is a great, great, great thing that God is ready to do, and let's get ready for it, okay? TomInserra at Outlook.com. That's how to get a hold of me. Like, comment, share, subscribe to these videos, and, on YouTube. I have a podcast. You can go to any Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever, and you can get these podcasts, download them, share them with your friends. This is another way you help with your ministry. I do have 2 books out you can get. That'll help. One of them is called SOS, a 50-day journey into the heart of God. And that's a devotional geared for 50 days, 5 to 10 minutes a day. And another one is called From Breakdown to Breakthrough, My Journey to Soul Health. And in 2018, it's a story in 2018, I I had a couple of nervous breakdowns. I don't know if it was one really long one with a break or if I had two of them. And then God brought me back to health through the help of my pastor and a few friends, and it just told the story of my return, coming back to health, and some resources there for you. Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com, or you can contact me and I'll get you those books, TomInserra at Outlook.com. All right. Well, God bless you. Have a great day. We'll finish up James or Jacob tomorrow. And then next week, we're going to have an extended teaching on how to hear the voice of God. It's not an exhaustive study by any means, but it is exhausting to go through it. But it's just to whet your thirst to go for it. All right. Well, God bless you. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next time.